Now we're recording.
Three,
Now
two.
it's short.
Now it's short. There we go.
Yeah.
We're
Yep.
live.
Yep. We are. So is Valentino. So.
He wants to participate.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Clearly. Might be a problem. Not sure he's like playing into this game this time.
We'll find out. We will find out.
We will. Okay. So welcome to the Trippin Thompsons podcast. I'm Victor Thompson. I'm one of the co-hosts.
I'd be the other one, Raquel. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, that would be you.
That would be me.
Mm-hmm. So, how's your day been going?
It's been a crazy day. So, the day started out with a reschedule of an earlier breakfast meeting that you and I were to attend, and then it just seemed to kind of gain some momentum as far as things that just were gonna change and go differently or be disruptive today. Because then that evolved into a project that we are so close to closing on, which is happening next Tuesday, but something we've been working on for quite a while with our real estate investing. And let's just say that some of our key partners in the end stages of the process kind of threw some curveballs into the situation, and it created just a lot of stress in a short period of time. But we worked through it, and I'm just now ready to just kind of have a relaxing evening. No more craziness. How about you?
Yeah, I mean it's real estate, right? So that's we also have a new renter moving into one of our our rental properties, and well, there were challenges with getting that payment together, and maybe it's the banks that don't talk to each other well. I have no idea. We got it straightened out though. So eventually that all worked out, but the breakfast thing in the morning probably threw everything off. Sometimes it just throws the rhythm off of the day. So was thinking of going to this breakfast meeting, didn't go, wasn't going to work out at first, ended up working out, and kind of tweaked something when I was lifting. And so that's been with me all day.
Great.
And I just finished my cup of my caffeine, and it's already the end of the day. So typically that's done a lot earlier. But that's how long it took me today, just because there were so many unlikely disruptions and things like that. But I am wearing my Timberwolf hat just because Timberwolves kicked the Lakers booty last night, so they're on to the next round. Anyway, that's for NBA fans. So yes, I think just as an aside, they were awful at shooting. And
we're back on the Timberwolves. Or we
they missed 43-point shots. And the announcer somewhere down the line said clearly they weren't practicing seeing the ball go in the basket.
Yeah. Possibly. It's one of those careers that people pick on the people who do the weather on the news and do the reports, and always rip on the weather people for getting it wrong. Well, my goodness, look at these professional athletes who are pulling down some pretty serious salaries and really lucrative contracts. But when it comes down to some of the core basic skills, it's just not happening. So what's getting in the way? distractions? Are they above it? Are they not spending enough time on the court or doing enough of the work off the court that really also feeds into their success on the court? What's happening?
I know, but that's kind of, why I think we're going to talk about visualization today. And I mean, it's an elite performer secret that clearly it isn't always being activated for athletes, but many athletes use it quite often. I mean, they work on visualizing and seeing the ball go in the basket in basketball, seeing you know um, the tennis ball like get across the net in tennis.
Mhm.
There's lots of things where it works in sports, but it also works in business and life in general. So,
It does. In fact, it's a technique I do all the time, like multiple
oh,
times a day. If I have a presentation coming up or a meeting coming up or a proposal to submit or, meeting somebody new or whatever it might be. I mean, big or small, I'm constantly in this visualization stage and play it out in different ways, right? But it's really focusing on how is this going to go for me when I'm in that moment? How do I see it playing out now? And then kind of also looking at, well, what happens if it doesn't play out that way? Am I ready for some of those things? And how do I prepare myself? And those are some of the areas that we want to kind of uncover in today's conversation, really help people get equipped with growing this skill. And it's pretty simple to do. And then looking at what are the techniques I apply, how do I put it into practice and all those good stuff, and also what are some examples, what does it look like, so how can I really kind of connect to it and think about how other people apply it. Are those things that I can translate kind of into my world too. So when
hmm.
you think about visualization, maybe what's something that has been a BHAG, as we would say in the corporate space, right? A big, hairy, audacious goal or a big dream for yourself, that if you were to apply visualization techniques and get to that space, like what would that end state look like and feel like? And what would that experience be for you?
Well, there are many. However, you
Just
know,
one.
th- a lot of it is centers around abundance and being able to manifest abundance, and in particular, abundant mindset. So it's about how I'm thinking versus, creating limits around it.
Hmm.
You know, my political commentary for the week would be is that our country would
Here we
be
go.
much better off if we adopted, our leaders adopted abundant mindsets versus scarcity mindsets. So, how that comes into play is thinking that um, there's a there's opportunity for me to be able to help many people in business grow their business, break through obstacles, do things like that. And I envision myself having a line of people standing outside the door waiting to work with me, because they feel like they're going to be helped. And I also know that I can help them.
Hmm.
It also looks like, well, you said one thing, so I'll stop. But what's something for you?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, like a year ago, I put together a visualization board. And as you know, I have it mounted up in the space where we work out. And that's intentional because that's an area that I spend a good chunk of my day in, and I'm there daily. And so I'm constantly just kind of marinating in my visualization board. And um, a place we used to go for our serving and feeding our faith. Um, the individual who led in that space had a comment that they would say to people that if we can get it through you, we can get it to you. And this was all about, in a sense, abundance, right? So, meaning that things come into our life that we're not meant to hold on to them, but we're supposed to extend and share and help other people thrive and grow and everything. And the more that we do of those acts, that the more that will come to us, right? So we're never in a space of less than, um, but we now become a vessel for others to thrive. And that's how I see my visualization board is that there are things that through me and my efforts, I will be able to put out that many other people will be and animals too, because, as you know, there's a huge animal sanctuary on there. Um, so there will be plenty for so many others to be able to be consumers of and thrive and feed into their life the way that they would like to, but it'll also be coming to me, and so I can see those things manifest, and, I just get really excited. I've got energy for it
Hmm.
and and anxiousness, right? So it's like, "Let's get going. I'm ready. Let's go." So
Hmm.
that's mine.
That's yours, yeah, and that I can attest. There is that board is down there, and now I know it's like you put it down there because that's where you go work out.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where you see it
So,
every day.
yes. Yep. I see it every day, and again, I'm down there a good amount of the day, and so, um yeah, it gives me time to reflect, and then I can visualize, like, while I'm doing my workout, I can go to these places. I can see the other people and the animals participating and their lives thriving and all these great things, and so it works for me. Definitely. And so we want to talk about visualization and just, what is it, and demystify it, and then also kind of get into the, how does it actually work?
Mhm.
And as we think about visualization, it's very much a mental technique where we're taking time to do, not, maybe reflection can be it, but we're reflecting into the future. And so we're looking at, what are the possibilities? What are my dreams? And what does that look like? And how do I put myself now into that space where I've achieved what I am aiming to to gain? And what do I look like? How do I feel? What's my emotion like? How do I show up in life? And how am I communicating? Who's around me? What are the things that I can experience through my five senses in that space? And it just really helps you kind of release into anything's possible. So through your visualization techniques, anything's possible. And the brain, talked about this before. Our brains are inherently lazy. They're huge machines. Don't get me wrong about that. High capability of things, but they're inherently lazy. So they want to take the short pathway of things. And so we need to kind of help them out. But with that, they also like where there is familiarity or likeness. And so if you think about some of those games that you can play on an app where you're matching pairs of something, um, brain loves that, right? Because it's seeking and identifying, boom, these things go together. And that plays out in life too. Like,
Mhm.
you made a comment about one of our vehicles years ago after we got it.
Oh, yeah.
What had happened for you?
Well, I mean, that's we have a metallic blue Explorer, which um, is very, it's a very intriguing color. When we first saw it, it didn't look like any other vehicles that we had seen out there. Um, but
Until
after we bought it, now that the brain was like looking for it, it was like scanning and looking, and then noticing that guess what? There's one over here. There's one driving by on the other side of the road. There's one parked over there. And there was even a time when we went in the parking lot and couldn't find. We like went to the wrong. explore because we thought it was ours, and it just that's what happens. What once you activate your brain to look for something, to look for a pattern, to look for a certain type of color, shape, whatever it might be, it tends to search and find those things a lot faster, and more frequently. So, you really, it's what it says. It's an activating system. You activate it and boom, look at it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, well,
and it's
so
Royal
first of all,
Match. That's the name of the one, the little app game. It's called Royal Match. They like do all the ads during about it. So anyway, that's
never played it, but okay,
me
thank
neither,
you,
but that's
thank
what.
you. So something needs to enter into your world, into your space, your awareness, so that your brain is recognizing, okay, this is kind of part of who we are, and then start seeing these other things. And it goes by an acronym, RAS. And it's this center of your brain, which is the RAS stands for reticular activating system. And what that part of your brain likes is that familiarity. And so once something has entered into your world, and now as part of your awareness, it starts saying, hey, there it is, there it is, there it is. And it's really powerful because it shows up in really literally everything that is part of your life that you're paying attention to. So you could start recognizing that the color of your car, like you shared. If we talk about real estate, um, now there are things in real estate, whether it's commercial or residential or new builds or whatever, that hit my radar, right? My brain's like, "Oh, look, that's something you've been looking at recently, or that's been something that you've been wanting to get into and look into." Right? And so now all of a sudden it's like, gosh, I've never even noticed that building before. But now it's on my radar.
Mhm.
Um, you could have a child, and all of a sudden,
Mhm.
all of these things baby related start like just like I don't know, it's like Velcro, it starts sticking to you, right?
Yes, sir.
Um, or you could, you might have a dog in your family, whether it's been with your family for quite some time or a new dog, but you start recognizing other dogs that may have similar characteristics, traits, coloring, size, shape, whatever it might be. All of these things come into play, and it's even true in the professional environment. A couple of good examples this way is that um, you might have experienced somebody with certain types of capabilities or skill sets that maybe you really appreciated or maybe you really didn't appreciate, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
as you move through life, when other human beings show up in your life and bring forward the appreciation characteristics and all of those things, it's like the brain's like, "Oh, we liked that person. Haven't even met them, but,
Right.
they started talking, they showed up, whatever they it did, we like them." And same is true with those that we don't appreciate so much, or the things that we don't appreciate. And that can be really challenging because we have to give time. We have to, especially when we're talking about human beings, we have to allow people to be themselves and to be really cautious about how our brain is like going back into this RAS pattern of making all of these matches. Um, so anyway, when we think about it, it's putting yourself in a place. It's zero cost, no resources needed. It's just some time, and it's time that you're using anyway. You could be doing this during your drive time, while you're showering, while you're working out, while you're eating, whatever it might be, right before you go to bed or right when you wake up in the morning. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it's just putting it into practice. And so, if we think about that, how should the viewers and listeners think about practicing visualization?
Well, that's a great question because we talked about it being more like a science, right? And you even brought up the reticular activating system. And the, the brain likes to think in small segments. So, that's the
Mm.
reason why oftentimes we do, here's three things, or here's four steps, or in this case, here's five core ingredients
Ooh.
to practice visualization. Okay.
Mhm.
So the first one is clarity, being specific about things. Uh, you don't want to just say, I want success, or, I know a lot of times I've seen examples where when we're talking about SMART goals and people say, well, I want to lose weight. And it's like, well, that's not going to achieve a lot for you because you could drink some water tonight and not eat and you'll lose weight, but did you really accomplish what you wanted? So you
Mhm.
really have to understand, what is success mean to you? And so you want to picture, that's that step, that first step. Picture with clarity the actual scene of what success looks like.
Hmm.
uh, we were talking earlier, you know, from a sports standpoint, there are times, that the Timberwolves were missing all these shots last night. And they don't do that all the time. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have taken so many of them. However, it's contagious in a way. So it's helpful if they have an objective. If they say, hey, you know what? I see us, hitting all of these 3-point shots. It's like we are making 50% of our 3-point shots tonight. So that you really have it clear in your head what that looks like. What are you seeing? What does that feel like when that happens? You know,
Mhm.
so the second thing is about that sensory detail, that you're using all the senses.
Mhm.
So they were playing in Los Angeles. So obviously they're in a place where people are not liking the fact that they were winning. So, what do they see? And how do they feed off of that? And a lot of professional athletes feed off of the controversy, off of the crowds booing them. And that's like, so we see people like giving us the finger, and we hear people calling us names, and we can smell the fear of our opponent.
Mhm.
Those are ways in which they can really use that sensory detail to really dig deep and richer into the image and the scene, so the brain starts to really get excited and activated.
Mhm.
And then you go deeper. The third step is about the emotion. It's about really feeling it, because when they won that game last night, they were like pumped, and I'm sure, visualize that moment over and over and over again of what it was going to be like to go to Los Angeles and beat the Lakers on their home floor.
I'm sure
Of
a
them.
lot of the fans who bought tickets to be at that game visualized that win.
Yeah, I'm sure they didn't. They probably were visualizing something else. Unfortunately,
No, the Timberwolf
oh, the
fans,
Timberwolves fans, yes,
yeah, they
the Timberwolves,
visualized it.
yes.
Of course, the Laker fans didn't. No.
And so but they got this great joy behind it, right? Because now you're achieving this. And when you have really strong emotion, it really helps drive your goal accomplishment. So you tap into that. When you're on the treadmill and
Mhm.
you're looking at your vision board,
Mhm.
and you start to feel those emotions, it also probably helps you run faster, get more engaged in your workout, right? It might like make the time go by faster even, right? Because you're feeling what that's like. You're feeling what that getting reaching that goal is going to be like, right?
It even is an escapism that I get so absorbed in the visualization that I'm not aware of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And And when this happens to me, and honestly, it happens a lot. And so hopefully this is relatable for other people too. But when I get into visualization when I'm driving, and then all of a sudden I'm somewhere like, how did I even get here?
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Hmm.
become so kind of unaware, right? I mean, not to the point that I'm getting into accidents or anything like that,
That's good.
but but just really, really having that escape. And so, I think one of the things as you're mentioning here is around the joy that that brings, whether the joy is coming from it actually happened or when you're visualizing just the sensation about how great it feels when you're at that spot.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you're not feeling that, it might be an opportunity to check in with yourself because that might not be the thing that you really want, right? You might be trying to tell yourself this is what I want, but if you're not getting that emotional connection to it, there's something that is kind of depleted. It's missing. And I would just do a self check on, is this really what I want to go for? So an example I would give, right? That um, maybe a family who's got a history of attorneys, generation over generation, right? And so now along comes junior, and at 2, junior's just like assumed, hey, you're going to be an attorney too. And conditioning of, okay, all through childhood I think about, yep, I'm going to be just like my parent, and now I'm going to be an attorney. And but then when it really comes down to it, it's like, it just that doesn't excite me. I
Hmm.
I I
Hmm.
wanna go and study trees, and I wanna live in the mountains with the wildlife, and right? So it's things like that that we could be visualizing and conditioning our brain to try and trick our brain, like, "This is what I really want," but if you're not getting that reciprocation of an emotional match with what you're visualizing, I would just encourage doing a check-in.
That's no, that's a good point. And I mean, so if you think about that, when we talk about those first three steps about having being specific and being clear, I mean, I think if you really are excited about something, if it's really something that is your passion that you're driving toward, you will have clarity. You'll have clarity around what it'll look like, and you want to take time to really be able to picture that scene. You want to like do all the sensory detail and feel the emotion. And
Mhm,
then the last two steps are about making sure you visualize both the process and the outcome. That's one step. Because
mhm,
just actually visualizing the outcome itself doesn't visualize the work involved.
mm-mm,
And understanding that there is
mhm,
work involved in it.
mhm,
And every almost every Monday, as you know, I go and do a entrepreneur like workshop for a group of entrepreneurs. And it's not enough for me just to say, hey, you know what, I visualize myself being able to deliver everything appropriately and everybody gets all the information they need. It's also important for me to step myself through it. So even though I've done it multiple times now,
mhm,
there's a point in the day when I'm rehearsing in my head, here's what I'm going to say, here's how it's going to come off, and I'm thinking about it. And sometimes it causes me to go back and I actually look at a slide and say, well, wait a minute, we could tweak this, we could
mhm,
add this, we could talk about this, or there's something current that's happening that needs to be that needs to be addressed here that will make this a more complete outcome. And so the same is true for people. When you talk about process and you start visualizing the process, I know when you were talking, you mentioned earlier, when we were talking about marathon training and the fact that there's a process. And so even though you know the outcome you want is be able to cross that finish line, but that's 26.3 miles,
Point 2.
26.3.2
2.2.
something
Don't
something
make it longer.
miles away. Yeah. Um, and just visualizing that end outcome,
Mhm.
you still have to get through those 26.2 miles, right? So understanding how do I like really enjoy the journey. We had another person we used to listen to in church who like that pastor would bring in from time to time I don't know if I should mention names, so therefore I won't, but
Mhm.
she is an evangelist and she would say, enjoy the process. Like
Mhm.
not just so like the whole journey, you got to enjoy it.
Mhm.
So long time I spent a longer on that fourth step than I you know meant to, but it's important.
Mhm.
Process plus outcome. And then the fifth step is even more important, well, at least for me, because this is one that I'm really needing to work more on, and that's consistency. Is that when you have something that you're visualizing, you want to continually practice it. So you should be finding time every day to visualize the process, the outcome, the emotion, the detail behind it from a visual and other senses component. All right. Because it's through that daily repetition that the brain really gets wired into understanding that this is the reality. Right.
Mhm.
And the more the brain visualizes it, the more it recognizes it as real and not as just some sort of foo-foo fantasy that's out there. So yeah, you
Yeah.
use the word
Yeah.
foo-foo.
Absolutely. And I would say with the visualization of the process that you have to embrace the whole process, but you also expanding beyond that, you have to embrace visualizing everything that feeds into the process. So if I think about uh, marathon running, right? And I used to do marathon coaching and helping other runners get prepared, conditioned, and race ready. And so it's not just the 26.2 that you're visualizing and preparing for. It's the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of training miles that you put in before the race. And it's the sleep regimen. It's how am I feeling my body? And all of the other things as far as shoes and apparel and different conditions and different temperatures require different types of things, and it's visualizing all of that you've poured into it. And so maybe you're getting ready for a promotion, or you want to leave your career and you want to start your own thing, you want to be an entrepreneur, right? And so it's not only visualizing now being in whatever that goal is for you, but what are the things that you need to start doing to prepare yourself for that opportunity? Or what have you already been investing in yourself to prepare you, right? So
Mhm.
acknowledging all of those pieces of it, and that really helps your brain stretch and draw back into when you start hitting different moments, because not everything plays out perfectly. When you start
Mhm.
hitting those different moments, the brain's like, hey, we were already there. Because remember, when the brain's in visualization, with the strength of visualization, the brain can't separate visualization from reality, and so the brain starts acting as if these things have already happened. And so when they do happen, again, brain likes to match familiarity. Oh, see this, done this. We've already been here before. We know what to do.
Mhm.
And so then it creates this momentum, it creates the confidence and courage for you to continue to push through when the times require you to push through, because that goal is worth going and getting.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is that you got to also know that action needs to happen in order to help the brain stay with it, right? That
It
you
does.
are you not only are you visualizing, but you actually have to go and do it, right? So, you can visualize. Well, our daughter made like this cherry cheesecake, right? We could visualize eating it, and that actually might be the healthy approach in this particular case. But if I really want to enjoy the moment, I have to actually get a knife, cut into the cheesecake, find a plate, put the cheesecake on it, get a utensil to eat it with, right? It takes the action of doing it. And while that's something that's people do without really thinking a lot about it, it's the same thing that your brain will do if you start visualizing success, is that you will start doing this without really even thinking about it. It'll become like second nature for you.
It does, and there's a lot of simple ways that you can help yourself out with, right? I've shared with all of you that I have a visualization board, which I spend a lot of time with every single day. So it gets back to that consistency piece. This is how you're going to help yourself out. There are people who put notes or post-its on their bathroom mirror because you know you're going to go and brush your teeth or you're going to do something in the bathroom hopefully every single morning.
Hmm.
Um,
Hopefully.
or on the refrigerator, right? So think about the places that you go to frequently on a daily basis and how can you help reinforce the messaging or a reminder like, "Oh, let me just take a moment, pause and get into visualization." Or even as I'm going through pulling out the items to get my lunch ready, right? I'm going to really start thinking about my visualization uh, process and put it into play. So help yourself out that way.
Hmm.
So we've got the 5 steps that you've mapped out for us, and then we wanna share also just some examples around we've shared some of our own examples, but with people who are pretty well known, because it becomes really relatable when we start to kind of peel back the fact that, gosh, in order for them to have gotten to the level that they did, they put into practice visualization techniques, and it becomes inspirational to know that by doing this, remember the brain can't distinguish strong visualization from reality. And
Hmm.
so let's help us
Hmm.
by creating the reality and drawing in the reciprocity of the things that are out there that we need to help us on our pathway. And so one of the individuals um, Jim Carrey. So the comedian and actor, as he's well known now to be, who at one point in time was a nobody and really a, a lonesome, kind of down on their luck, didn't have a lot going on in their life, nobody. But he had dreams for himself. He saw
Hmm.
what he was capable and what he wanted to be able to do, Mr. Crazy Pants, like, you know, sometimes I just think about, gosh, what would it have been like to encounter Jim Carrey before you knew Jim Carrey as Jim Carrey? And he was himself, right? It'd be like, wow, that's one crazy dude to interact with. But anyway, he wrote a check to himself,
Mhm.
and the check he wrote to himself was made out for $10 million. And how he put it in the memo or whatever was that it was for acting services rendered. And it was a matter of years later when he actually got his $10 million check for
Mhm.
acting services rendered.
Yeah, for Dumb and Dumber.
So, you know what? Whatever hits the mark and you're feeling good about it and it flows with what you wanna do, beautiful. And I gotta be honest, Dumb and Dumber was rather entertaining.
It
Um,
still is
it
actually.
was rather entertaining. So,
Yeah.
the thing is, though, is that this is easy. We all could write a check. It doesn't have to be a check. It could be an IOU. It could be some sort of statement that we're putting on there. If you want to throw extra zeros on there, you
Mhm.
go for it, right? Because nothing is too big. It's all achievable. but we
Mhm.
have to allow ourselves and our brain to take action and make these things happen. So Jim Carrey did a lot of visualization, saw himself as this really great actor, this comedian that was able to connect across multiple types of audiences and had just like a raging successful career. And he got that. So that's kind of an acting example. Another quick one on the acting side, Oprah Winfrey, also who not on the Oprah show or the OWN network, all before that when she wanted to do an acting opportunity with The Color Purple. She was very intentional. She wanted a part, significant part in The Color Purple. And so she started doing visualization about her in that character, in the
Mhm.
role, on set, taking direction, getting cues, interacting with the other actors. What did it look like? What did it feel like? And she just continued with this visualization component of it. And then she got the call to do the casting, to do the casting call, right? To audition for it. And she did it,
Impressive.
came out of it not knowing how to go, wasn't feeling like, "Gosh, I nailed this thing. I'm gonna get the call back. This is great." Didn't know, but she did, obviously. We know. She was in the film and, got many awards, and Steven Spielberg was the one who contacted her saying, "We want you in this." So visualization is what helped propel her to see this thing through and then actually make it happen.
Mhm.
We've talked about sports, right? You've brought up the Timberwolves a few times, and that's one area. Another area of sports, Serena Williams is also very well known for visualization. So
Mhm.
she takes time to reflect on every single aspect of her game, from foot position to how she's holding her racket, to how she's swinging her racket, how she is approaching the net, how she is tracking her opponent. You know, do I want the ball to go this direction, that direction? What if I hit it? What's my response? What if I'm anticipating my opponent to hit the ball back to me like this, but it does that instead? What do I do?
Mhm.
So she's visualizing just every single aspect of the game, good, bad, or indifferent, because now what it's doing is it's helping her brain say, we've already done this before. We've already played this out. We know exactly what to do.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean it's always going to go perfectly. Nothing does, but you're helping yourself get through those moments and continue to persevere and get closer to the goal that you have. Um, the first time that I did visualizing, I shared this with you, was like early in my marathon training days, is that after we got done with some runs, we would have somebody come in and all of the runners would lay out on the floor, turn the lights off, and then
Go to sleep.
somebody would talk through. We didn't fall asleep. Somebody would talk through the race course. So whatever marathon was coming up, we would get an audible around, we're at the starting line. How are you feeling? What's your anticipation? What's the weather like? What are you wearing? Um, the gun goes off. What's your first stride like? What's mile one look like? Now mile five, is your gait where you want it to be? Are you hitting your tangents? What's the crowd like, and how is that feeding your energy, and who are you interacting with as you're running? And it took us all the way through the entire course to now you can see the finish line, you're approaching, and what is the crowd response now, and how are you responding back to the crowd, and what are you doing to finish strong, to feel like you just nailed this, and then how does it feel now when the individual on the other side of the finish line hangs that medal around your neck, and then you get up on the little podium, have your photo taken, all those good fun things. So it goes through all of this. And the first time we did it, I was like, really? We're doing this, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'm not sure this is for me. But then when I got out on the race course, right, and was queued up in the starting gate. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, how am I feeling? What is the air temperature like? Do I have the right clothing on? Are my shoes tied appropriately? Do I need to worry about that? Is my tag on? The lace is okay. Everything's going to work out fine. The gun goes off. Okay. I've already been here. I know exactly what my first stride is going to look like. I know how I'm going to feel at mile 13. I know what that finish line is going to look and feel like once I see it. Right. And then how I'm going to go ahead and finish this race. And so it was really, to me, impactful. The fact that doing this visualization and now actually having it play out while I'm on this race and
Mhm.
going back to those moments of, I actually already visualized this. I visualized this crowd at this corner, right? I visualized hitting this tangent. Man, I nailed this one. I love that. Or taking the hill and like, this hill, what hill? There was no hill there. I just ran right through this thing because that's what I visualized. And that became such a pivotal moment for me about the power of visualization. How about for you? Did you have any moments like that that really kind of let it lament for you?
Well, I think, a lot of them come back to sports. I was trying to think of something, outside of that. Um,
Yeah.
Nothing came to mind right away. Um, but what I was thinking about was Lindsey Vaughn and the fact that she used to like visualize prior to going down the ski slopes. And she practiced in her head hundreds and hundreds of times going down the ski slope before she actually would go into the race. And so, being able to navigate in your mind before you actually um, go and do it for real, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes you get a chance to practice beforehand, but there's still nothing that replaces that moment. Replaces that the time when you actually get in. If it's getting in front of someone, and probably speaking engagements are things that I do a lot of visualization for. So I think about before I do any sort of speaking engagement, making sure I kind of visualize what it's like. Because it's one where I used to I used to have this fear of getting in front of large audiences, and then one company that I worked with, they had a national sales meeting, and I ended up having to get in front of, like, I don't remember how many, like, there might have been 500, 1,000 people in the audience. I don't know because I don't remember how many salespeople there were and how many other people were in the audience. Um, and that was something where I learned that visualizing, beforehand, what it was going to look like and how it was going to feel, and being able to connect to the audience in a way that made me relax, so that when I was speaking to them, it wasn't like I was speaking to, 500 people. I was speaking to like one or two close friends, and it made it so much easier. So, um, I guess that's what my non-sports related thing that I can think of right now would be. So,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. And the more that we do this, we've talked about how it helps condition the brain, and it's a really a powerful. I mean, the brain is a powerful machine. And as we're doing these visualization techniques, it's mapping new neural connections in the brain. And you want like a really messy brain that way. It's a very healthy brain. The more network connections that we're creating. And by creating these, it means that there's something new happening, a new experience, a new way that you're forming thinking, and visualization is a really powerful way to do this because, again, the brain doesn't distinguish visualization from reality. So you can map new neural pathways, and a part of our own health, all of us, is that as we enter into the later ages in life, right, that individuals can experience different types of mental decline. And the more healthy we can keep our brain, the maybe the more risk is mitigated when it comes to some of those onsets of decline that can happen. And so using that as a little bit of a motivator that, um, it's got great benefit for the here and now and helping you move towards that awesome goal that you're visualizing to manifest, but it also is going to help carry you into a better place much later in life as well. So how do we want the viewers, the listeners to think about starting to apply this and get it into
Well,
action?
we typically have a challenge. And
Yeah.
so here's your visualize victory challenge. All right.
Okay.
And just like there are 5 key aspects, we're going to give you 5 steps to this challenge. First step is choose one goal. Done. Second, spend 5 to 10 minutes every day visualizing it. So remember all the things we talked about, the components of visualization. The last one was about consistency. So that's the consistent component of it is you're doing it every day. You're visualizing the process as well as the outcome. And then the third part of that then is you're using all your senses. So you want to practice using all your senses, feeling all the emotions and picturing it happening now. It's not happening in
Mhm.
the future, it's happening now. Because the more you picture it as success right now, the more the brain will rally to have it happen right now.
Mhm.
So really get into like playing this game of feeling the senses and feeling the emotions. It's something that as we've been going through this, I was thinking about it. And it's like sometimes I'm half-heartedly doing the visualization work, and this step 3 is really key. Is just finding time to be by yourself so you can be absorbed in it. Right? You don't have to have distractions and things like that. And then as you come out of that, you're going to take one real action every day.
Mhm.
It can be a small action, but anything that moves you toward the goal
Mhm.
is progress, right?
Mhm.
So, progress over perfection is another saying that I hear a lot of times. It's like making progress and moving toward the goal is going to make that outcome more exciting when you reach it. And then step 5. So the 4 key steps, right? Choose the goal, spend time every day visualizing it. Step 3, using all the senses, emotions, and everything. And step 4, taking an action toward it. And the last step is simply sharing that experience with us, right?
Mm.
Go onto our YouTube channel, or you're already there right now. So share your experience on the YouTube channel. Give us a comment, give us a like, tell us what you're doing to make this happen. Or you can also, um, reply to our Instagram as well. So those are all ways in which you can uh, give us your experience and tag us so that we know you're doing it.
Awesome. Seems pretty easy, right? Again, this is all about you, all about opportunity for you, no cost, no resources needed, just you, some time every single day, and let your brain just start going wild with pursuing and chasing down your dreams. But
Go
we
on in.
believe in you. We know you can do it. Um, just appreciate being able to spend the time together and being able to share some more insights about how you can be successful in life and whatever you choose to do. We wish you well, but we want to hear about it. So remember, keep us informed, stay connected, like, share, post, all those fun things.
All those fun things.
Yeah.
Sounds terrific.
Okay.
And it's a
Let's head
wrap.
out. We'll see everybody next week.
Write that check.
Woo! Yes.